Hey everyone, today for another vlog, and today the prompt came to me just a few seconds before hitting the play button, and the prompt for today is collective general burnout. So two key additions to the concept of burnout, right? So people know that work, like working too much and without rest and so on, leads to burnout, and it's it's a bit confusing because sometimes burnout can feel the same thing as depression, but usually burnout is, resolved quite i- not immediately, but like it's fairly straightforward once you identify it, but just take a break, whatever, and learn to actually chill and relax. But today I would like to add like two important distinctions to this, typical burnout, which is the first one is general burnout. So general burnout means that it affects pretty much all of the other areas of your life, not just work. And collective, which means, obviously it happens at a collective level, right? Like it's not just some individuals who suffer from burnout. It's that society as a whole seems to be kind of leading people to burnout, and that it's a very common thing nowadays. So the idea of collective burnout is something I just heard about today. I was listening to an interview about withdrawal from society. It was a hermetics. It was one of the hermetics interviews episode of the podcast, and they talked about they quickly mentioned it's really interesting term, society of burnout or whatever. I'm not sure what the term was, and it was really interesting to me to hear that term because it really much appears to me that people in general are just tired. Like I think in modern society, people are incredibly tired, and that just makes me think about like why and what we can do about it. So I guess I'm going to first talk about the collective burnout aspect before the general burnout. So I think the reason why collective burnout is very plausible, it's probably a very widespread thing that people are just tired all the fucking time and getting themselves not maybe not directly burnt out, but like they're living a lifestyle that is leading them towards the burnout. And I think the reason why is that it's quite simply that we do not recognize the value of rest, right? Like we fetishize productivity so much that we don't emphasize the importance of rest, and so people like think it's virtuous to like work all the time and all all the time, but what they don't realize is that productivity very much depends on productivity of actual things that require, va- productivity for things that actually produce value and require, thinking and actual work. Those things they require you to be well rested and being able to make good decisions, right? So as opposed to something which is very linear and always predictable, such as like factory assembly, which is doesn't require much thinking, or being a cashier at the grocery store. Those jobs they don't really suffer from you being tired, but jobs such as programming or running a business or whatever, those those are heavily influenced by how well rested you are, and they are not linear types of work, right? The the output you have is can can vary drastically from one person to another, and even from the same person can vary a lot from day to day, depending on how you feel and how how uh let's say how good your product management skills are and so on. Like, are you setting concrete goals to work towards and so on? So rest is not seen as something important, it's not emphasized, and I think that's one major reason why a lot of people are working themselves towards a burnout. And another reason I can see why is that we just live in a really information, uh, in a really junk um, information ecology. So, in other words, people have tons of information in their mind, in their head, and they're not really like processing it into something, into understanding or like into writing or into a system or whatever that can hold this information. Instead, they just hold the information with their mind or with their browser tabs. And let's call this phenomenon information overload. And I think information overload is a huge contribution to like being tired all the time because like you know you just you just can't rest, right? Like there are all these things in your mind and you're not sure what you have to do. You're not really committed to anything, right? Like the whole attention span and lack of focus is also kind of plays into that. And so all of this information that is especially because there's a lot of negative information, right? Like very pessimistic news about the future and so on. I personally don't do not watch the news, so I don't really feel that, but I know that it was true when I was younger, and I doubt that it has changed. I mean, it's probably getting even worse because of the democratization of the internet, right? Because the internet allows information to flow faster, which means that there's even less of a check on like the truth aspect of news, right? And things spread based on memetics rather than truth. And memetics tend to be quite they tend to promote negativity a lot because it's people just talk more about negativity than things going well in general. So yeah, I think this information overflow and this negativity, it is good to make it its own point. This affluence of negativity is really it's really tiring, you know. Like negativity is a really tiring thing because when you're cynical and pessimistic about the future, like you don't feel like you can rest because you know you can only feel like you can only really allow yourself to rest when you feel like you know your survival is kind of guaranteed and so on, or not even guaranteed, but like you know like you feel like things are suddenly going to fall apart in the next you know in the coming days or whatever, and it's not so much a reality that things are gonna fall apart in the next days, but that's often how people feel because they do not manage their nervous system, right? So there's this like constant negativity and anxiety in the background that is making people even more tired and yeah, even more disoriented. So the three aspects that came to my mind as to why burnout might be general. To recap, there might be more. I'm just this is just a very free flowing vlog, right? So the first one I mentioned was rest is not seen as important. The second one is the information overload, and the third one is the negativity aspects. Yeah, those are pretty fucking huge, right? Like those are pretty huge. I guess to add to that minor points over I don't know if it's really minor. Yeah, I guess there's another point I haven't seen. So a minor point is like the difficulty of having a boundary between work and life. Um, because you know, like remote working has especially made that difficult. And you know, a lot of jobs are mental, and so there's this like tendency to like keep thinking about your work even when you're home and so on. So that's also a contributing factor to burnout. And the other one is a more important one, I would say. So the fourth important one is just how much social media emphasizes a rush, like a you know, like social media always emphasizes the most the outliers, right? The people who are the most successful and all that. That creates a lot of pressure in people, I think, to achieve more, to get more, to experience more, and all that. And I think that also contributes to the general burnout. This whole yeah, this whole spectacle that we see on social media. It really is a spectacle, right? Like just people showing showing cherry-picked aspects of their life to the others to create an image, create a character instead of just being themselves. And the spectacle is very tiring, right? It's very tiring to pretend. It's very tiring to always work on stuff and all that. And yeah, so this was about collective burnout. I think to me it's pretty clear that there's a just general tendency of people to be tired, and I see that in people as well. Like one of my coworkers, for example, reports being tired. Another one doesn't report it explicitly, but when I look at their eyes, it's very clear that I guess it's not just this one. A lot of people's eyes are really show really heavy signs of tiredness, like chronic tiredness. But yeah, I would say it's quite fair to say it's a general phenomenon. So this was about the collective part. The general part is more of a personal experience. I don't know how true that is for people, but about what I'm going to say. But so for me, my experience of what I call general burnout is like when you, it's not just that you don't want to work and that work feels really, tiring, not something you want to do. Is that for me, like even something like video games feel tiring and not really something I want to do, which I used to. I'm not really sure if I would use the word enjoy actually. I'm not sure I really enjoyed video games when I think about it, but at least I would play a lot of video games. I would play a lot of video games, right? And now I don't know, I just don't want to. Like video games feel like work to me. They feel tiring. They feel really tiring. And it's true for a lot of things in general. Drawing feels like work as well, although I can sort of understand why that would be the case because drawing is really hard. But yeah, drawing has felt like work. Uh, yeah, well, those are the three main things I used to do at work. Actual work that pays money. I mean. Drawing and video games were the main things I did, and yeah, all of them they just don't feel really pleasant right now. And so what I've been doing is there's this really great video of I don't remember his name. He's kind of a new person I've been like listening to. Um, and by new I mean someone I've been adding to my list. Right, he's not new on YouTube. He just talked about like just allowing yourself, just just allowing yourself, just and stop putting up so much resistance on what you want to do. And this is definitely what I've been doing, which, and in particular, dropping the resistance with regards to quote unquote doing nothing, like quote unquote resting. That's definitely been quite helpful for me. And over the past weeks, and I talked about in one of my previous vlogs, I've also been allowing myself to indulge it in bad habits. I would still call them bad habits, and I still feel a bit guilty for doing that, such as watching porn for in my case. And there's a sense in which it feels bad, but there's also a sense in which it actually feels kind of good. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think I started uh, the whole like quest, I don't know, quest or journey of wanting to move away from porn when I was like 16, let's say. I think I was 16, maybe a bit before. And now I'm 23, and I've made a lot of progress in many aspects, such as self-understanding and emotional awareness, right? And identifying the urge before it gets out of control and all that. I made decent progress on many things, especially the self-understanding and the emotional part. But at the same time, right now, I feel like what I'm experiencing right now is quite different because whereas in the past I would reach to porn because I was, overwhelmed emotionally and all that. Nowadays, it feels more like I reach to porn because I kind of don't derive much pleasure from anything else, as sad as it is to say. Like, I feel like I'm kind of in this weird situation where I'm really tired on one hand, and I'm also feeling quite, yeah, nihilistic, apathetic towards a lot of things. Maybe nihilistic is a bit of a strong word, but more like it's kind of hard to see for me to see the value of doing X or doing Y. Yeah, this is what I would call maybe this is a misdiagnosis on my part, right? But this is what I would call just general burnout for me. Just kind of being fed up with like all the activities I used to do. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, right? And at the same time, I'm not like really despairing, right? As maybe when if you're hearing this, you might think like I'm in a really dark place and all that, but no, I'm not really despairing, right? It feels to me like I don't know. I just kind of want to allow myself to do what I would consider in the past bad habits because it feels quite different. It feels like my relationship to them is has been different, and maybe this is just me rationalizing my addictions. I don't know. Maybe it could very much be the case. I don't know, but I feel like I'm in a state in my life where I don't have to push towards anything. Like my job is not very demanding, and you know, I, there's not going to be any major shift in like the coming months, and so I feel like it, in it just feels right for me to just kind of drop the game of like superiority and always trying to get to the next level, I think. And I think this is really what I've been feeling lately. This general burnout is actually the result of being tired of this quest of superiority and always, always pushing myself to go towards X or towards Y. And maybe this general burnout is just a sign of, you know, me my system telling me to just slow down and just be in the moment, as it's quite easy to say, just be present, but it's actually for me it's like one of the hardest things I've probably ever done in my life is learning to just be in the present moment. I'm someone who dissociates a lot, and I think even when I was a kid I used to dissociate, but I didn't have the word for to describe the experience. I would describe the experience as like, feeling like you're not in your body when I was a kid, and yeah, now I just use the word dissociate, right? Because it's more accurate. But back then I didn't even have the word dissociate in my vocabulary, in my experiential vocabulary, you could say. Yeah, so pretty weird part of my life, I would say. Like I don't think I've ever like I don't think I would ever like think that I would just allow myself to just watch porn and to just let myself go. And I don't even know if if that's the right thing to do. But one thing for sure is that I want to temporarily drop this game of superiority, right? This game of always trying to like improve an aspect of my life and so on. And instead I just want to accept and slow down. And yeah, it's a pretty weird thing. It's a pretty new and weird thing for me. Like usually I would just be all the time in problem solving mode, right? Like how do I get to that place in my life? Like how do I improve this aspect? How do I stay productive? How do I stay on target and all that? And I think like I'm kind of tired on all that for now. Maybe at some point I will get back to it and I will see the value, but now I just I just feel tired. Like even just talking about it, just feel tired. Like it's just yeah. Uh, I just wanna be, just wanna be. I don't really want to do much these days. So yeah. Thank you for listening. I see you next time.